We are really happy to hand over the next panel, Artist and Risk to Ole Reitov, founder of Freemuse, who have been supporter and advisor of Artists at Risk since the beginning of our journey in 2013. And Ole is joined by panelists. Ole will interview to you in a few seconds. So we are really happy to have this live discussion on the topic.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Marita. Eva, you want to say something? Okay, good. Well, welcome to this panel of really distinguished participants. We will focus on topics such as what kind of artists are human rights defenders, what kind of support and network exists, what do artists at risk need when they get relocated. And I'm here in Copenhagen. I immediately hand over the microphone to a person who for years has promoted artist rights to freedom of expression and remuneration. And running through his CV would take the next 15 minutes, which is the whole time we have. But briefly, he's a composer. He's president of the Swedish Society of Songwriters and Composers and Authors, as well as president of the International Music Council and president of the European Composer and Songwriter Alliance. So, a triple president. Welcome from Stockholm, Sweden, Alfons Karabuda.
Thank you very much, Ole, and thank you for having me here. It's a very important event, a very inspirational one, but also a scary one. I'd like to jump on to the first question you mentioned, if it's okay, because I get that question now and then. What kind of artists are human rights defenders? Well, to me, they are the ones not necessarily fitting my description or anyone else's. And it's not about advocating a special topic. It's about adding to a diversity maybe not even wanted, at least not by those in power, economical or political. The UN rightly depicts a human rights defender as one actively advocating and promoting human rights. And this is right, of course. But many times an artist can be promoting the importance of human rights by his or her bare existence, the art she creates, and with the courage not to fit in. And by raising and sharing their voice, they extend ours and they open doors, making it possible also for us to be heard. And they give us a glimpse of what is possible out of the national, regional, economical, or political box we sometimes find ourselves confined in. So they are enablers, and they often pay an unreasonably high price for this. And we all need to ease their burden. So to me, a human rights defending artist is a person daring to be him or herself when it would be so much easier and safer to try to be someone else. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Alfons. And we'll move to London to a person who, in spite of his relatively young age, has another very impressive CV, which includes being a researcher, a filmmaker, a producer from Cairo, based in London, author of 3 books, several publications, worked for academic and human rights institutions, and currently a researcher and producer at the international respected BBC program, Hard Talk. Hossam Fazulla, the microphone is yours.
Hi, thank you, Ole. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, and especially today, 10 years after the Egyptian Revolution, that means a lot to me. I think the relationship between human rights and art is a really important one. The public sphere, in its classic Habermasian conception, was limited to white middle-class men. But that's not the only thing that it was limited to. Nancy Fraser and other thinkers also criticized this public sphere where people come together and talk about the official affairs and their worries. This assumption, the classic assumption, was really limited to just kind of like official way of speaking, and it really ignored arts and culture. However, arts and culture are a very important component of the public sphere and of everyday life. It's a really great tool of communication, and we see now regimes are very aware of that. We see it in their fight against art and the censorship, and not just that. We see armies of regime propaganda manipulating popular culture in a pursuit of an obedient citizen. And I think for artists and also for researchers and for the people, like, we have to also be aware of the importance of art and its freedom, because if we lose art, our voice gets much, much lower. So for me, I think free artists are, in a way, human rights defenders, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Hossam. And we'll keep the microphone in London to another dear friend and colleague of mine. She is an institution in human rights and freedom of expression, author of several chapters of the artistic freedom in the UNESCO Global Reports, and she worked as director of PEN International for Writers at Risk for over 20 years, and like myself, a member of the EU UNESCO Expert Facility of the 2005 Convention. So, hi, Sara Whyatt, your microphone is there.
Okay. Well, great to see you all, and what a great event. Thank you to Eva and Marita for organizing this. Well, I've been given only 90 seconds, 100 seconds to talk on a very complex issue. So I'm going to launch into the first question. Are artists human rights defenders? Well, clearly the playwrights and filmmakers who use their scripts to expose and satirize governments, singers who rouse their fans to political actions, painters, muralists, comedians. There are so many ways to use the wide spectrum of artistic expression to scrutinize and expose inequality and corruption. So yes, of course, artists are human rights defenders. But what about those who are not political, who unwittingly find themselves their work being found subversive or offensive to religions or sexuality? Are they human rights defenders? And there are many human rights organizations now who are increasingly supporting artists as well. But do they fully understand the additional precarity, the special situation that artists work under, whether or not they're engaged in political activism? Censorship of the arts has added complexities around things such as access to grants and sponsorship, to public space, to venues. And they need to have buy-in from so many players before you can even get to showcase your work, let alone get your work censored. So is this properly understood by the human rights community? And then finally, do artists really want to be seen as human rights defenders? The questions are, what are the benefits of being seen as such? What are the disadvantages of being seen as such? It's a question I'd like to put to artists. I tend to think yes, because I'm a human rights defender. But I'd really like to hear from the artists themselves.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Big questions here. Well, many of us are used to express ourselves in words or in music, but as we've experienced in our lifetime, sometimes a drawing or cartoon can make more noise than words or music. And one of the masters of drawing is our next guest. And here we have another president. I believe we've got as many presidents in this panel as we saw at the inauguration in Washington last week. But this one is founding president of United Sketches, an international organization for freedom of expression and cartoonists in exile. Those who followed from the beginning have already met Iranian-born Kianoush Ramezani, who now lives in Helsinki. Welcome, Kianoush. The mic is yours.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed listening and watching what you said, and I especially appreciate Alfons' points and comments on the first topic, which is my choice too. Well, I would like to just jump on it and add some more comments on what Alfons said. I think being an artist, to be a human right defenders, it's first of all selected lifestyle. I disagree with the idea that we consider all artists as human rights activists or human rights defenders, because, I mean, obviously many of them are pure bastards or assholes too. I mean, I know a lot of artists myself, but they are just sold their soul to the dictators, etc., etc. And I mean, Hossam, you can name many of them, I'm sure, in Egypt, and so on. I think when we become an artist who is a human rights defenders, when we choose our priority, which means become engaged to help the others, become the voice of a society, of a community that we think they're not heard, and at the same time knowing that our art, our creation has an impact. So I think the time that we switch from ourselves as a narcissistic artist or just me to the others and use our art to serve those category, or let's say humans, then I think philosophically we are kind of human rights defenders, but then the risk comes and a lot of problem comes. I cannot hear you.
Sorry, typical mistake of a moderator. Shame on me. Thanks a lot, Kianoush. Most of us are living rather safely here in Europe, but we're now moving to a country in which speaking against the power is indeed very risky. Several human rights defenders have been attacked, imprisoned, or killed in Zimbabwe. And having worked with several human rights defenders in Zimbabwe, I must say I'm very impressed by the courage to continue speaking up for fundamental human rights. And one such brave person is our next guest. Live from Zimbabwe, Nkosilathi Moyo is the director of the Zimbabwe Organization for Youth in Politics, a community-based organization in Zimbabwe. Welcome, Nkosilathi.
Thank you very much, Ole, and hello, everyone. Well, I will go straight to the question that I picked up and saw as one of the most important subjects that I would like to speak to. First and foremost, I would like to say, myself being an artist, being a poet, I identify myself as a human rights defender as well, on the basis that I'm using art, I'm using poetry to speak the truth to power, to challenge tyranny, and to challenge political corruption in my country. So poetry and art is the weapon that I'm using to try and fight for the human rights and the respect of the rule of law in my country. I picked one question which says, what kind of support and networks exist and what are their differences? First and foremost, I want to appreciate various networks and organizations which are providing emergency support, rapid response, and all sorts of help to artists who are, to embattled artists or artists who are at risk. I will not mention them name by name because of time. However, I would like to speak about the issue of flexibility and bureaucracy. We have a situation whereby artists are at risk, that they need immediate or urgent, rapid assistance to be moved from one place to another, to be relocated. Maybe they need to be moved from danger to safety. But we have quite a lot of organizations which are there, which offer such assistance, but then they have a lot of bureaucracies. You are facing immediate danger, and you are told that maybe our board meeting will sit in June, our board meeting will sit in November, our board meeting will sit in March, but you need immediate assistance. So I would like to say we are in need of organizations which can adjust, their modus operandi, organizations which can operate outside all these lots of bureaucracies and save lives. I have respect for artists at risk. I'm their alumni. One thing that I like in how they operate is that they respond immediately and they are so flexible. I would like to call upon and urge all these networks which are offering this type of assistance to learn a lot from artists at risk, from people to more mobile. We need to be flexible. We need to be to to kind of put aside our bureaucracies. Yes, it's important to follow our procedures. Board meetings happens in June, board meetings happens in November, but sometimes let's put that aside and save lives before we follow these procedures.
Certainly. Thanks a lot, and Nkosi, we have time for a very quick. We have 1 minute left, so just talk in the panel. Who wants to comment quickly? 10 seconds, 5 seconds. Sarah.
Oh, we can do it. I totally understand what the last speaker said about the formality and bureaucracy, and there are reasons for that. But also, I think that the organizations that are supporting artists at risk really need to look at that question. So, yeah, it's definitely something I'll be sharing with others, and have already, actually, as all know.
Over to Hossam. Quick remark.
Yeah, I just want to get back to which artist is a human rights defender, and I want to say that's why I was saying free artists. Of course, like I agree with you that a lot of artists are assholes, and especially in Egypt, you find loads of those. So free, I think, and then maybe I have my own definition of free.
Right. Sorry, we don't have more time in our panel. Thanks a lot. I know you can follow discussions later this evening. On to Ivar.
Yes, thank you very much to all the panelists. It's really, I agree with you that time is so short, but we, as Ole just said, have further minutes, not only 1 or 2, but endless amounts of time. At the end of this entire symposium, we will be going into a plenary where we will have a 20-minute plenary, which is on the live stream, which is, what you can watch throughout the world. And then we will also continue in the plenary Zoom. So if you wish to join us, it will be starting around 7:20 p.m. Finnish time. That's 6:20 Central European time, Berlin and Paris time, for example. And thank you very much once again. We'll now move on to the next chapter after we have. Thank you very much. See you later, we hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.